The time has come, ladies and gentlemen. It is the first ever NBA 3 playoff time. As I simulated through the regular season, it has come down to this. Here is the playoff picture. Of course, Las Vegas, who's been dominating the league, has the number one seed in the West as they take on Austin Toros. And then it's a battle between the 4th and 5th seeded Houston Galaxy against Tucson 66ers. Then it's the 3rd seed Vancouver Grizzlies taking on the 6th seed Seattle B-52s. Then it's the number 2 seed Minnesota Foresters taking on the 7th seed New Mexico Thunder. That's going to be a very interesting Western Conference battle going on right there. Oh, that's going to be tough. And over in the East, we have Cincinnati, who was the number 1 seed. I believe they won 43 games in the regular season to get that number 1 seed. And they will be playing against Charlotte Bobcats, who have the 8th seed in the East. Then it's a battle between the 4th seeded Quebec City Yetis as they take on the 5th seeded Indianapolis Rangers. That's going to be another exciting matchup there. And then it is Kentucky Colonels, who are the 3rd seed, as they take on the 6th seeded Philadelphia Liberty. Another very intense game there. And it is Washington D.C. Guards, who are the 2nd seed in the East, as they take on Hartford Golden Rams as the 7th seed. Alright, this is the first official NBA 3 playoffs. I have no idea what's going to happen, but first, before any of that happens, we're going to take a look at the standings. As you guys can see, you have Las Vegas, who took care of the Western Conference. They are the number 1 seed. As you take a look at the teams who did not make the playoffs, so Salt Lake City, 1 game behind from the 8th seed. You got Denver, San Diego Clippers, New Orleans Jazz, Sacramento 49ers, Tucson Heat, and then Los Angeles Avengers, who finished last in the West. So them teams right there will be in the lottery. I'm not sure who will have the number 1 pick, but the lottery should be coming up pretty soon. But anyways, here in the East, you see Cincinnati with 43 wins. They are the number 1 seed in the East. Then the teams who did not make the playoffs include Milwaukee Marauders, Orlando City Ospreys, you got New York Titans, Buffalo Braves, Grand Rapids Drive, Tampa Bay Sharks, and the Atlanta Stormers. So yeah, this is gonna be a very interesting playoff. I'm not sure who's gonna win this, but this is very exciting because this is the first official NBA 3 playoff. We have so many more to come, so let's get started. Okay, here it is, the first official game. Kentucky Colonels versus Philadelphia Liberty. I believe, in my prediction, I believe that Kentucky is going to win this series. I believe it's going to probably go to 6 games. That's what I think. So we're going to see what happens. So first game, of course, will be at Kentucky. We are going to begin the simulation, and you see Kentucky off to that early start, and they will finish taking care of Liberty to win game 1 of the 5-game series. Alright, so next game is Quebec City versus Indianapolis. Another intense game. I'm not really sure, to be honest, who's going to win the series. I think it's going to be Indianapolis. The Rangers, I believe, are going to win also in 6 games as well. So we're going to see what happens. We're going to simulate here. Let's begin. So Quebec City. Alright, so Indianapolis. It's actually a pretty close game here. This is pretty much what the series is going to be. It's going to be all close games here. But it looks like the Rangers have jumped out to that lead, and I think they're going to hold on to it till the very end. And yes, it does. So Indianapolis will take care of Quebec City in game 1 in a very intense series that's going to happen there. Okay, in the Western Conference, probably the most talked about game, Vancouver Grizzlies versus Seattle B-52s. A lot of stuff is riding on these two teams. I believe it will be Seattle though, who's going to take care of the series. I believe it's going to go to 7 games, and Seattle will come out on top. So we're going to see what happens. B-52s versus Vancouver Grizzlies. So let's see what happens. All right, so Vancouver has the lead. Um, oh, Seattle. Oh nope, it went back to Vancouver. It's still a very close game, so anything can happen. As you can see, Seattle will hang on to it barely. So Seattle will win game 1 as they barely beat Vancouver. That was a very close game. So Seattle has the 1-0 lead in that series. As we take a look at the next game here, it is between Houston, the 4th seed, versus Tucson. I believe Houston's gonna win this series in 5 games. That's my prediction. So, okay, back over into the East now. It is Washington, who is the number 2 seed, versus Hartford. Another intense game we're gonna have here. Let's see what happens. So Washington has the lead. It just keeps on going back and forth. So Washington is now gonna take over the lead. But Hartford's still on them. Hartford wants that lead, but I don't think they're going to get it. Nope. And it looks like Washington, D.C. will take game 1 of their series. Alright, another intense game. It is between the number 1 seed Cincinnati versus Charlotte. I believe it's going to be a sweep. I believe Cincinnati is going to sweep Charlotte and win their series right away. So we're going to see what happens. So it looks like it's actually a pretty close game here, as Cincinnati will now take the lead, and I believe they're going to have the lead for the rest of this game. Yup, it looks like it. It looks like Charlotte will not make it. They won't come back from this, as time will run out, and yes, it will be Cincinnati taking care of game 1. What happened here? So we're gonna simulate this shit. So let's see what happens. So Minnesota off to that lead. That's what they need to try to win this against New Mexico here. But New Mexico trying to take the lead, and they will take the lead. Minnesota trying to fight back to take that lead back, but it looks like New Mexico. Yep, New Mexico will win the game as they upset Minnesota in game 1. This is the next game between Las Vegas and Austin Toros. I believe Las Vegas is going to sweep Toros, but we're going to see what happens. It's going to be very tough. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. So let's see what happens. So off to the start, it was Las Vegas now taking the lead. Austin Toros trying to get back to the game, and they'll take the lead, but Las Vegas will take it back, and then it just keeps on going back and forth. This can be a last minute shot. Oh my god, never mind. Austin Toros just went on a spree, like what the hell, as they defeat Las Vegas, the number 1 seed. Back as Kentucky takes on Philadelphia. Let's see what happens, and Philadelphia will win as they will tie that series. Quebec City looking to tie their series back up with Indiana, so let's see what happens. But it's not enough as the Rangers defeat the Quebec City Yetis. Vancouver looking to get back at Seattle after Seattle barely beat Vancouver, and Vancouver will defeat B-52s to tie the series back up. Of course, Houston looking to try to sweep their series, and they'll get that lead right there over the 66ers. Taking on Hartford, and Hartford will win that game to tie the series 1-1. Cincinnati taking on Charlotte now, and Cincinnati of course will defeat Charlotte to take that 2-0 lead. Minnesota hoping to beat New Mexico. They need this win, and they do not, as New Mexico will beat the Foresters, and Minnesota may be knocked out of the playoffs in the next game. Hopefully they will not. And then of course Las Vegas versus Austin. Austin who upsetted Las Vegas in their first game, but Las Vegas is back to defeat the Toros to tie their series. Alright, Kentucky versus Philadelphia, game 3. Here we go. What's going to happen? And Philadelphia will defeat the Colonels in game 3. This is a do or die moment for Quebec City. They need this win. So as you see, Indianapolis has defeated Quebec City. As we move on now to Seattle versus Vancouver. Seattle wants that lead, but Vancouver will defeat them to take the series lead. Houston versus Tucson, and Houston will defeat Tucson to try to sweep them in the first round of the playoffs. Hopefully they can beat the Golden Rams, but the Hartford Golden Rams just keep on coming, and they'll take game 3 of the series. Cincinnati taking on Charlotte, and Cincinnati will defeat Charlotte to have the 3-0 series lead. Minnesota needs this win, but it's at New Mexico. It's going to be very tough for Minnesota if they can win, and they do. They defeat the Thunder. It is now 2-1. New Mexico has the lead. Las Vegas wants to defeat Austin, and they will. They will defeat the Toros in a very intense game. Alright, Philadelphia really needs this win so they can have the advantage over Kentucky here in this upcoming game, but Kentucky will tie the series up 2-2. Actual do or die moment for Quebec City. They need this win, otherwise they will be knocked out, but it has been done. Quebec City Yetis have been eliminated from the playoffs, as the Rangers will move on to the Eastern semifinals. First sweep ever in the history of the NBA 3 League. And they will tie the series up against Vancouver. Houston looking to be the second team ever to have a sweep. And let's see what happens. They just sweep Tucson 66ers, as Houston Galaxy will move on to the Western semifinals. DC wants revenge against Hartford after they beat them twice, but Hartford again defeating the number 2 seed Washington. Could we see an upset there? Cincinnati looking to sweep Charlotte. Will they do it? And they do. They sweep the Charlotte Bobcats. So far there have been 3 teams who have been swept. As Cincinnati makes it the 3rd team, they will now be facing Indianapolis in the next round of the playoffs. Alright, Minnesota wants this win against New Mexico, but they cannot do it as the New Mexico Thunder defeat Minnesota. Las Vegas wants this win over the Austin Toros, and they do, as they defeat them 125-77. They will now have the 3-1 series lead over the Toros in the playoffs. So let's see what happens, and Kentucky will defeat Philadelphia to have the 3-2 series lead now. Very intense game. Who will get this? And Seattle will. Seattle defeats the Grizzlies 127-83. They now have the 3-2 series lead, hoping to advance. It is a battle between Washington and Hartford. If Hartford wins, they will be the first team to have a major upset. So let's see what happens, but Washington stays in there, and still Hartford has the 3-2 series lead in this series. Minnesota doesn't want to be upsetted as they look ready to take on New Mexico, and they do. They defeat New Mexico, and they are going to try to force a game 7. Hopefully they can do it. Las Vegas wants to be the 2nd team in the West to make it to the semifinals, and they will do it. They knock off Austin Toros, so they will be facing Houston Galaxy in the next round of the Western Conference semifinals. Will Philadelphia force a Game 7? Let's see what happens. They do not, as Kentucky Colonels defeat the Liberty. They will now move on to the Eastern semifinals. This is huge for Seattle. They want this win over Vancouver, or will Vancouver force a Game 7? And they will. Vancouver defeats Seattle by just 2 points, 101 to 99, as they will be forcing a Game 7, which will be back in Vancouver, which Vancouver will have the edge in that game. Washington versus Hartford. Washington trying to force a Game 7. And they will. They defeat the Golden Rams to force a Game 7. This is going to be very interesting. 2 Game 7s already, as Minnesota is looking to be the third team to force a Game 7. And they do. It is a Game 7 as they defeat New Mexico. But Seattle knows they can have a chance at this. So let's see what happens. And Seattle beats Vancouver. As they win the series, they will advance to the semifinals, either against Minnesota or New Mexico. This is the final game of the first round of the Eastern Conference. Will it be the number 2 seed Washington or the 7th seed Hartford? Let's see what happens. And it is Washington, D.C. not being upsetted as they defeat Hartford Golden Rams. Nice work though by the Rams to force Washington to a Game 7. That is huge for a number 7 seed to do, as Washington will now be facing Kentucky Colonels and force a Game 7. Can they advance to the semifinals and face Seattle, or will it be New Mexico? And the Minnesota Forcers have been eliminated, as New Mexico has the first upset ever in the history of the NBA 3. They will now be facing the 6-seeded Seattle B-52s in the conference. Wow, that is huge. That is huge. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the semifinals. And of course, Las Vegas taking on the 4th-seeded Houston. And it's the 6th seed Seattle taking on the 7th seed New Mexico. And over in the East, it is the number 1 seed Cincinnati versus the Indianapolis Rangers. And Washington, D.C. as the number 2 seed taking on the 3rd seed Kentucky Colonels. What will happen here in the NBA 3 playoff? First ever playoffs, by the way. As Seattle will be defending home court against New Mexico. And let's see how this game will go. Hopefully Seattle will pull this off, but New Mexico getting off to that early start, they will be hanging on to that, but Seattle will be trying to fight back, as you see there, and Seattle will try to take the lead, and they will, up against New Mexico, and they will probably hold on to the lead as they end Game 1 with the win over New Mexico. Next game here is between Kentucky Colonels and Washington, D.C. Guards. This is going to be another intense matchup. Let's see what happens. Washington wants to win this game, but it looks like Kentucky is on a mission right now. They are defeating D.C. right now, and Washington trying to get back in this game, but it looks like Kentucky will probably take Game 1 here in their series, and it looks like they will, as they defeat Washington 113 to 97. Let's see what happens. Las Vegas looks to take down Houston, but Houston looks to upset the fans and defeat Las Vegas. Let's see what happens. Las Vegas off to that early start. Houston trying to get back, but Las Vegas. Now Houston has the lead here. And will they do it? Will they upset Las Vegas in Game 1? And it looks like they're trying to. Las Vegas cannot get back. And it will be a very close game, but Houston does it, defeating Las Vegas in Game 1 of their series. As the Royals look to try to defend home court, and they'll jump to that early lead over Indianapolis. Indianapolis needs to come back in this. They can't let Cincinnati jump out to an early lead like they just did. And it looks like Cincinnati will be taking game 1 of their series 125-106 as they defeat the Rangers, who won their first game of the series against New Mexico. Looks to take game 2, and it will be New Mexico defeating B-52s 104-88. DC now taking on Kentucky. They want this win here, but Kentucky will defeat the Guards 95-77. Houston defeated Las Vegas in game 1. Looks to do it in game 2, as Las Vegas wants this win, but it will be Houston defeating the Wild Aces 91-78. Game 2 here, Cincinnati versus Indianapolis. Royals, who defeated Indianapolis in their first game, looks to do it again, and they will as they defeat the Rangers 97-86. Lead here, Seattle versus New Mexico. Here at New Mexico, let's see what happens, and Seattle will defeat the Thunder 101-93. Washington needs this win here. They do not want to go down 3-0 against Kentucky. And it will be Kentucky who defeats the Guards 90-86. Houston versus Las Vegas. Houston wants this win as they'll be playing on their home court as they want the 3-0 start. And they will get as they defeat Las Vegas 3-0. Will they sweep Las Vegas? Las Vegas needs to think of something, otherwise they're going to probably get swept. And Cincinnati versus Indianapolis. Let's see what happens in this game. And the Rangers defeat the Royals and their home court 109-105. Very close game, but the Rangers hung in there and got the win. Thunder want to tie the series, and it will be a tied series as New Mexico Thunder get the series tied. DC does not want to go out and get swept by Kentucky. Let's see what happens in this game, and it is all over for the DC Guards as Kentucky will be the first ever team to officially make the Eastern Conference Finals as they sweep the DC Guards. Houston wants to be the first team ever in the Western Conference to make the Western Conference finale as they look to sweep Las Vegas, but Las Vegas will not let that happen, and they'll take game 4. Las Vegas needs to win the next games to force a game 7. Can they do it? Cincinnati versus Indianapolis. Indiana, who got the win that game, looks to do it again, but Cincinnati doesn't want that, but it is too late as the Rangers now tie the series 2-2. Here we go, everyone. It is the finals of both conference. Okay, everyone, the time has come. It is the battle between the last 4 teams as we begin with the Eastern Conference Finals between the third seeded Kentucky Colonels as they take on the number 1 seed Cincinnati Royals. Let's see who will take game 1 of this series. So Cincinnati comes out barely winning in a tight game as they defeat the Colonels 106-105. A lot of fans have been waiting for Seattle hopes to win this game as well as Houston. So let's get started with game 1 of their series. And looks very close, can be back and forth. Both teams are 3-point shooting teams, so we can hit the daggers if they try. And looks like Seattle has the lead, but so very close. Houston had the lead for the moment, and as he keeps on going back and forth, it's going to end up probably in a buzzer beater, and Houston will sneak by and steal the game from Seattle as they take the series lead 1-0 with a 112-105 victory over Seattle. The Royals defeat Kentucky Colonels to have the series need 2-0. After a steal game by Houston defeating Seattle, will Seattle be able to get their revenge? But they cannot do it as Houston powers their way through to have the series need 2-0. Will Cincinnati get game 3 and have a very big edge over Kentucky take this game? And it is no good as the Royals win by just 3 points, 92-89, as they defeat Kentucky to have the series lead 3-0. Desperate time for Kentucky. They need to think of something quick, otherwise they're going to get swept. Another team that looks like they're going to probably get swept is Seattle, but Seattle needs this game. They need to take game 3 as they are at home now. Let's see what happens. And they do. They defeat Houston Galaxy 109-107. Houston still with a 2-1 lead over Seattle. The Eastern Conference Finals and make it to the NBA 3 Finals as the first team ever, or will it be Kentucky who stays alive? Let's see what happens. They cannot do it. Kentucky cannot do it as Cincinnati is the first team in the Eastern Conference to make it to the finals, as they are going to be now crowned the champs of the East as they win the Eastern Conference Finals. They are the best team in the East as they await in the Western Conference. Western Conference Finals between Houston and Seattle. Back at Seattle. Seattle got the win last game in game 3. Looks to do it in game 4. But Houston defeats Seattle again barely, 109-106. Is now 3-1 as we head back to Houston for game 5. Will it be Houston being the first team in the West to make it to the NBA 3 Finals? Or will it be Seattle hanging on? And Seattle B-52s cannot do it. So there you have it. The final 2 teams heading to the NBA 3 Finals for the very first time. As who will it be crowned? Who will be the team to win the finals? The first ever NBA 3 Finals. Will it be Houston, who is the 4th seed, the king of the West, as they take on the team king of the East, Cincinnati Royals? What will happen? This is a very intense game.